Hello from Slide Nerd and hello from Weaves. What's up folks? How you guys doing now? In this vid, I'm going to talk about how to handle button clicks when your user clicks the button on your Android device which is made inside your app. Exactly how do you go ahead and handle that? So first, let me actually talk about events. You guys have heard this word if you're from AWT or Swing background or from Midlet or your BlackBerry. Wherever you are, you probably heard about this word events and you're probably scared if you have not done this before. It's very simple. Let me show you. There's a guy over here. You have this door, the guy tries to ring the doorbell, the circuit gets activated, the doorbell rings, someone actually listens to this doorbell. Now remember, the doorbell rings, everybody hears it, but there is only one person or maybe two people who actually go ahead and open the door for you, right? So the same way events work in Android. Let me show you what I mean. You have the button over here, you click the button, there's an event which gets triggered. This event is received by your Android operating system, and that is gonna tell everybody like a doorbell that it's gonna ring and tell everyone. But those who are interested are the ones who are gonna actually respond back, and that is the listener. Now this listener is a person who's actually interested in listening to your event after the button click, and this is the guy who's gonna respond back. So there are many types of listeners and stuff. Let me go ahead and talk about how your button works in the first way. So here you have this button over here, as you can see on my emulator. I have the screenshot of a button which says click here. You have a wrap content and wrap content, layout, width and height. I've discussed about this width and height in my previous vids. You can go ahead and check them out. Then there's this Android text which is click here. Actually, I should not be putting this text over here. It should be inside the file called strings.xml, because that's the way you can make stuff portable, and you can arrange for resource internationalization if you guys ever heard about that word. Then there's the button tag in XML and this ID. Now this ID is the way your XML code is linked to your Java. That is, inside Java, if you want to access the same button, then you use this ID field, alright? Now if you see this Android onClick attribute which says do something, now this is the way, this is one of the ways which you can respond to button clicks. So what happens is, you're telling your XML code that when the button is clicked, then this do something should happen. Now what is this do something? It's nothing but it's actually a method which takes a view argument, alright? It's public void do something, and this is inside your Java file, which is your main activity.java or whatever it is. So let me go ahead in Eclipse and show you exactly how this works. So here in Eclipse I have nothing, just a plain empty dumb screen. I'm gonna make a new project over here by saying new Android application project. You guys are too familiar with this. From the next vid, I'm not going to talk about how to make a project. I'm going to jump directly inside the code. So this is the last vid where I'm actually showing you how this is done. Alright, so there you go, slidener.waves, the package name. I'm gonna take the minimum as honeycomb and click next. No need for a custom launcher. Click next, next, and main activity, click finish. So now as you guys can see, this is the graphical layout where I'm seeing this hello world written over here. I'm gonna click on that, remove that by clicking delete. I'm gonna put a button over here. I can just drag it and drop it, and you can see in the activity main there's everything created for us, right? The width, the height. I'm gonna remove the relative layout and put a linear layout over here, because we are happy with linear. We don't need relative for now. We'll see relative later. This is the simplest layout of all. Alright, so at this point everything is filtered according to what I need. So I'm gonna put an orientation for my linear layout by calling it horizontal. That means all the components will be placed next to each other horizontally on the screen, as long as they have space. Otherwise they'll go to the next row below. So that's done. Yeah, the ID over here. Alright, so now let's see. If we go ahead and run this on the emulator, let's see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead up at the top, select the project on the left side first, then click run at the top. So now if you guys notice, your button test app has started over here. I click the button, actually nothing happens, right? You click the button, you're ringing the doorbell, and there is nobody inside to actually hear it out. Here, I mean, this is the first method. Here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use an XML attribute called onClick. Here what you need to tell is, you need to tell the name of the method that is going to respond to the button click. It's like I said, everybody hears the doorbell, but there's only one guy who actually responds to it. So you need to tell the name of that guy. So I'm gonna say do something over here. So I'm gonna go inside your Java code, source files, and remove this. So here what I can do is I can say public void do something. Now it's very mandatory that you put a view inside. Alright, now why do you need this view? This is one of the questions which people wonder if you're a beginner. This view is what tells which button was clicked. If there are multiple buttons, then you need to know which one was clicked, right? So here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna simply use a log.d. I'm not gonna do anything complicated over here. I'm gonna say log.d. If you guys remember, I've talked about what a log D is in the previous bits. I'm gonna give it a tag called vivs message saying button was clicked. Alright, nothing great. So go to my logcat. Again, let me go and run this. Select this over here, click run on the emulator, So now if you guys notice, the emulator is started up. There's a logcat over here. If I click the button now, it says button was clicked over here. You guys can see that. Again I click the button, button was clicked, button was clicked, button was clicked, and so on, right? So every time the button is clicked, what happens is here, your Android onClick, it's telling that, hey, go and call do something. Your Android operating system calls this function do something, which is over here, and inside this statement runs, and you see this on the logcat, right? So now let me go ahead and talk about what happens when there are multiple buttons, because let me go back to the presentation. So here we have the same case. There's a click here button, there's another button over here. All right, the same do something method remains as it is, but what happens is, if you see, there's an Android ID button 1, and there's an Android ID button 2. There are two buttons, and they are both using the same do something as an event. Now how will you differentiate between them, which button was clicked? So let's go ahead and see this in Eclipse, how we do this. So first things first, let me go to my layout and add that additional button. So let me put another button right near it. Call this another button, edit text. So now if you go to your visual XML layout, the XML view, you can see that there is a button over here. There's another button, this ID button 2. Your Android Eclipse has actually given the ID automatically. All right. So this is not recommended. Remember, put those things inside strings.xml, because I'm doing it right now just for the sake of simplicity. I don't want to confuse stuff. So now let me go ahead and actually run this. Both of them are going to call do something. We need to define the same piece of code over here, because remember, this button is responding, but this is not responding yet, right? If you click, nothing is going to happen. So we need to do the same thing over here, do something. So here in main activity, nothing has changed so far, right? We need to distinguish between both of them. We'll see how to do that. First, let's go ahead and run this and just check if both the buttons are working perfectly. So here I have both my buttons. Now if I click on button, it says button was clicked. Another button, again button was clicked. So there is no way of actually distinguishing which button was clicked, right? So let me go ahead and see what that is. There's something called v.get ID. All right, now this is gonna exactly give us the ID of that button which was clicked. So let's go and use this and actually log this out and see what this gives. All right, I'm gonna put this inside logcat, and this button was clicked. So now let me go ahead and save again. So now if you guys see, if I click the button over here, it says 21312307220 blah blah blah, button was clicked. If I click another button, there's a different number. You can see that 721, 720 above. So these numbers, what the hell do we do with them? So what we do is we do something like this. If you remember, we can have the v.get ID, and we compare that with r.id. say button 1. Now this number is the same number which you saw, 23012 whatever. So if we actually compare these, we can determine which button was clicked. All right, so here in this case, what I'm gonna say is the first button was clicked, else if the ID equals r.id. button 2. Now remember, if you're wondering what is all this R stuff, don't worry too much about it. I'm going to talk about resources in detail as we go ahead. For now, all you need to remember is whatever you create in XML over here, and you have this button 1 @ID something, it gets converted into something called r.id. something, right? The same name button 1 is over here, as you guys can notice. So here I'm going to go ahead and log this again. This time I'm going to say second button was clicked. So let me go and save this and take this up, run it again. So now again we have things running. If I click on button, it says first button was clicked, another button, second button was clicked. So you guys can see that clearly, right? It's pretty simple. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel, comment, let me know what you think about this. Thanks for watching. In the next vid, I'm going to talk about view.onClick listener. So I'll catch you guys in the next vid. Have a nice day. Thanks for watching.